So I was all for the Bitcoin Cash split in a sense. It was actually also on a Swiss national holiday, so I can remember it was 1st of August 2017 maybe.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I was also very excited about Bitcoin Cash and about some of the proposals I saw there. But I also realized, like Connor, pretty quickly that we have disagreements already pretty early on about whether it should be a tinkering pool to try all sorts of things, or whether it should be stabilized. And, you know, if you want to say, you know, there were two schismas in this. One was about whether we want stability or tinkering. And the other one was, of course, Craig Wright. There were so many people, I think, that just left to like, or stayed on BCH or whatever you say, just because they just can't stand Craig. And for me, that's just not really a argument from a technical side, from a side whether you want to build your business on this, whether, of course, there are always risks in each business and so on. There are also social risks. But actually, you asked the question earlier, when was the first time you realized this might actually happen? And the first time this realized was actually when a friend here from Switzerland, they call him Altcoin Dad. He knows all about, you know, all sorts of altcoins, and he started posting about this potential schisma, and these news about the potential split were starting to get from out of this Slack room that Connor talked about. They were starting to get sort of into the Bitcoin media, and people started to ask me about it. And I think before that, I sort of tried to live in a sort of concept of denial. We'll work it out. I mean, it can't be, it's just one opcode. I mean, people can't really fall over one opcode and stuff like that. But then it became apparent this, you know, it would happen.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's interesting because for me, Bitcoin Cash, I didn't see any reason why the BSV node, when the node implementation came out, which was after the Bangkok breakdown, which Connor, I want to get your thoughts on in a moment too. It was just so obvious. Why not go to 128 megabytes and all of that? So to me, it just seemed very non-contentious. And like you said, Bernhard, you know, one opcode and CTOR, I guess, was the other big thing. And all of that was just sort of, okay, why would we have a war about these things? And then,
for me, the most absurd notion was that suddenly there was discussions in the big blocker camps about what the right block size limit would be. And then we're like, aren't we already, like, haven't we seen that this should be economically determined, that, you know, miners are operating in this magic triangle? Like, who hasn't gotten the message yet? And you know, quite frankly, a lot of people haven't gotten the message yet. A lot of people actually think we are crazy. And well, we probably don't care about that, but so it's kind of difficult sometimes to even comprehend why some of these discussions are even there, because from one perspective it seems so, the choices seem obvious, the choices seem logical.
For sure. I think, you know, framing what led to the split itself, I in my mind it's twofold. The technical things I think are very, very small. The opcode, the difference in block size limit of 2018. But really, I think more than anything, it's a cultural split. I think people did not like the culture of Craig Wright and his attitude. And the people that became the Bitcoin Cashers post-split, I think just could not deal with the fact that, A, Craig was pro-patent and is a patent advocate, and then that he is not some sort of anarchist. And I think to them, there's nothing past that. But Connor, let me hear about Bangkok. What were your thoughts on Bangkok? Where do you think that broke down? I think Bangkok was when we knew the split would happen. But what do you think? I'm going to let you talk for a couple minutes here.
Well, you made an interesting point right there. I think it was a cultural split, but it was really just an anti-Craig Wright split. And it's evidence because the reality of it is, and the reason a lot of them refuse to accept this, is Craig did create Bitcoin. So when he spoke about things, he may have done it in a brash way, but he was always right. And so he would say something, and even if you showed a mathematical proof that what he said was right, they would still find a way to say, this isn't true, this didn't happen. So like one of those things is evidenced in, you know, I was really hell-bent on trying to figure out, well, if a lot of the stuff that he was saying was true. And one of those things was, he kept saying Bitcoin is a small world network. Okay. So I had never heard what that was. A lot of people probably still had no idea what that was. And so I I bought this book. It's somewhere back here. And it was like an entire book about graph theory, something I was very unfamiliar with, had a ton of calculus in it. Luckily, I had some understanding of the math. I went through the whole book and I was like, oh, this is really interesting. Bitcoin is so clearly a small world network, right? And so then I wrote this article, and it was just a very simple, here's why Bitcoin is a small world network. And all you had was a ton of people that would eventually become the Bitcoin Cash side of the split saying, nope, this isn't true.